Absolute Green Lantern, issue 1, Al Ewing writing with JAHNOY, LINDSAY on the art. So, yeah, I was very curious to see what this would be. Obviously, the cover, it was obviously a black woman who is the Green Lantern, seemingly, and we find out in the book that it's Jo, and that maybe that was news that was out there, but I'd been avoiding it, so this was all a surprise to me. But we don't actually start with her. We start with Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan's in this book, as is John Stewart, and we don't meet him, but there is a Guy Gardner referenced.
Yeah, I will say, I will get out there. I trust in Ewing, right? I've read enough things from Ewing that I enjoy. It is a little bit weird in the Ultimate Universe that all the Green Lanterns seemingly work together in this small town, or are all aware of each other, right?
Well,
a little bit odd.
Well, not even just aware. They seem to be like an old friend group for the most part. At least some of them, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I actually think that's one of the best little changes. I think that's like an interesting idea. It's like, oh, they already know each other. They don't meet because they're Green Lanterns.
I just think it's weird because they're all from different walks of life. That's what I always kind of like about the different Lanterns. And that, so all of them being from this small town, it was a little bit weird. Again, nothing about the quality because everything's fine. It was something that popped up as I was reading.
Yeah. I don't think that's weird at all. I actually think that's like a smart change if you want to include multiple of those characters, because otherwise it'd be weird to have them all run into each other like very quickly. So, we start off with this kind of ominous thing where we keep going back to this black panel with just like a white circle or a ring, perhaps you might say, with this voice speaking to Hal Jordan. But he's like stumbling down the road. A cop car pulls up and asks if he's okay. He's walking in the desert. It's not really a safe or good idea. And he keeps having his hand in his pocket kind of awkwardly, and the cop gets a little edgy about it and says, "Hey, what have you got in your pocket there? Is it drugs? Is it a weapon?" And he pulls out his gun, he points at him, and Hal's like, "Please don't, please don't." And the cop's yelling at him, like, "Take his hands out, slowly, so on." And then it just goes black, and then there's a full page after that where there's just like a little crater and some smoke of where the policeman was standing before. He is dead. So, like, right away, we're doing this thing where, okay, Hal Jordan, not that he's a villain per se, because it's not really his fault. He's obviously infected or he's attached to by something that we get to. But, like, he is not the hero of this story. He is not the one who is, like, getting the ring and, try to save the day. That's not what we're doing here. So, right away, sets up something interesting. And, he stumbles into a diner, and, they're fairly nice to him, but this news report comes on about Greenvale, which is the town that all the lanterns are from. And there's a giant Green Lantern symbol that's, like, sort of basically just landed...
It's Evergreen.
Oh, sorry, Evergreen.
Yeah.
What did I call it?
It's Evergreen. Greenvale. Which, not a bad name. But yeah,
mine's just filling in the blanks. So... yeah, giant Green Lantern symbol has just crushed like an entire like city, like couple of blocks. So there's news broadcasts about it. No one knows what it is. It's kind of this weird thing. And then we flash back to what was happening when this happened. And this is when we get to see Hal when he's normal and he's not like scared because he's trying to control this thing that's attached to him. And he's sitting with John Stewart. He's sitting with Jo. And they're talking about why she's back in town. She's moved back from the city. She was in Coast City. They also talk about how that guy tried to offer her a place back in the Force, which says that she used to be a cop, which lines up with what she was in the regular universe to some extent. It also tells us that Guy is currently a cop, most likely. So
checks out.
And everyone's like, at least she's mad at him, which also feels like it's just right for Guy Gardner. Not seen yet, but the attitude towards him is adding up and makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. So that's a whole thing. So yeah, but there's this, the green bubble appears, clearly a construct of some kind. I did kind of like this idea though, that they don't really know what it is, and they're kind of inside this green bubble, and they're kind of saying, oh, it's kind of like a force field that you'd see in a movie or something. Like I kind of like them trying to like just sort of talk their way through what the hell it is.
Yeah, I like that Hal goes and touches it, and he's like, it's like spongy, but you can't get through it. And that's what he says, like a force field. So that was a fun way to interact with it.
Yeah.
Because I never really thought what a construct feels like, right? We just look like they're a solid kind of thing, but I've never really stopped to think about what it'd be like to touch one.
I figured it could be hard or spongy depending on what the construct was.
Yeah.
But this seems to be going for spongy for this force field at least. And so when they're inside the bubble talking, there's this green tint over all the panels to sort of give you this idea that they're inside it, which is kind of neat. But they look up into the sky, they see the big Green Lantern symbol coming down, and we get a look at Abin Sur, who Hal had already mentioned. He mumbles to himself at one point, "Oh, Abin Sur came down." And Abin Sur looks very different. He's got like a giant sort of tail from his head kind of thing. He's also got an extra pair of arms.
Extra pair of arms, no clothing.
No clothing.
Like, nothing there.
Or genitals.
Yeah, he kind of, yeah. And he's built like a Ken doll, looks like. Looks kind of like Saint Walker, right? Meets Gore from Thor.
Oh, so I can see the Saint Walker comparison because of the head thing.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So definitely not the pink bald-headed dude that I'm used to with Abin Sur.
No, and it's definitely not like a crash landing in the same way that normally, because he doesn't look like he's in distress as he's landing here.
No.
At least right away anyway. But like Hal's sort of mumbling to himself, and he's also acting suspicious to these people in the diner, so they start to freak out about him and ask him questions. The one pulls a gun on him, and then when the guy pulls his hand out of his pocket, we see it's black. So we get this idea that this is the absolute version of Black Hand, is something that's actually attached itself to Hal Jordan. And we even see like a sort of specter of Black Hand that kind of forms from like the sort of the black energy that comes from it at one point. So and Hal gets shot. He gets shot by the waitress in the diner, and we see just like this like sends the energy into a tizzy where there's like it's all swooshing around the diner, causing chaos. And Hal is like, "Wait, you're not going to let me die, are you?" Like, because this energy goes into his wound and like pulls out the bullet. And the cliffhanger is just Jo showing up with green energy around her, and she's got like a little Green Lantern symbol on her shirt. She's still wearing civvies, like she's still wearing jeans and like a jacket and whatnot. But she's clearly got Green Lantern energy around her, so clearly there's more story to tell about what happened when Abin Sur came down. I feel like we're going to be flashing back to like the rest of that part of the story throughout this arc.
It's very reminiscent of when Alan Scott uses his. It's like almost a screen flame surrounding, right? Which I thought was pretty curious.
Yeah, I can see that. The question I have here is: Abin Sur a villain? Did he like? I mean, he came with this big Green Lantern symbol, which suggests that he has at least something to do with the Green Lantern still, or is the Green Lantern ship chasing him because he's got the Black Hand stuff and he's actually a villain?
Yeah, which would make sense because if you're twisting this right, where what is the Green Lantern without Will, right? And if Hal's the first person to encounter Abin Sur, and he almost gets this thing that completely takes control of him, right? It's not Will, but there's still a Green Lantern story in here to be told with that ship. And whoever bequeathed this on Jo, right? Because we don't think it's Abin Sur, do we? Because the way Hal talked about him.
I mean, Abin Sur looked pretty menacing from the one glimpse we got of him. So it's kind of, and he didn't have any green energy around him. No, it didn't look like. So I think it's open for debate. But again, like the other Absolute books, there's so much room for them to kind of go in any direction they want. What I did like though is the book started with when Hal's walking down the road. All of the narration coming from like the Black Hand kind of like entity that's kind of attached itself to him. It's all stuff like, "Oh, you're scared, you will feel fear." Like it's all like the opposite of what you usually get with Green Lantern narration, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, as being someone that's born and raised here in Nevada, they're in Evergreen, Nevada, which seems to be up north a bit more. But when we got to the page with the cop car, I was like, that looks like our highway patrol cars. So then when you keep reading and they're in Nevada, I was like, okay, nice touch there from the artist point, and even the surrounding desert looks very familiar to everything around here. So points there to the art to JAHNOY and LINDSAY, who I'm not familiar with, but proper stuff there.
You to me as well. Just looking at that Abin Sur page again, I will say it does look like he's maybe inside the Green Lantern circle. Like, you can sort of see a part of the curve. So even though you don't see energy around him, I guess you could argue that the entire background has got a green tint, implying that there's an entire green force field around the ship. So maybe he is the Green Lantern here. Maybe he is chasing the Black Hand, and he is the one who gives the energy to Jo if he isn't a villain.
Yeah.
But he does look menacing here, but I mean, that could just be the prejudice of they drew him kind of scary, so I'm just going to assume he's a bad guy.
True, because Hal tells the waitress, he said his name was Abin Sur. He came from somewhere else. The symbol in the sky, that belonged to him.
Yeah, okay,
and then
that was a
when
line
he's
dialogue
crying
as
here,
well.
and he says he called it the Green Lantern. So who knows? Abin Sur did something. He gave me something. He gave me a weapon. So yeah, he definitely got the black hand from Abin Sur.
So that's conflicting, because on the one hand, okay, the Green Lantern ship is his. I'm calling it a ship for lack of a better word right now. I'm just going to call it that. So he did come with the ship. He does call it the Green Lantern, but he also seemed to be the one who passed on this Black Hand thing. Is it possible that Abin Sur got infected with this Black Hand thing, and it's like, you know, it's using them to seek out a new host, and it's found its way to Earth? Is that what we're doing here? Yeah. Is it possible that like Black Hand went from Abin Sur to Hal left, and then Abin Sur was himself again as he's dying after Black Hand's left him, and he says, "Hey Joe, like you have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps," or whatever the equivalent is in the Absolute Universe.
Well, and here it also plays off that Hal wanting to be the hero has almost cursed him, because he keeps saying that I wanted to be the hero, right? And since it seems like he was the first there, he's the one that gets this black hand. And again, maybe it's just like that. Maybe it's something he needs to overcome, you know, and that's not him. Because here, right, we get that he's a toy reseller, because they talk about like he's trying to collect.
Excuse me, collectible retailer, I think something like he called it. Yeah.
Yes, but John Stewart's like, yeah, no, you buy and sell toys, my guy. And essentially he's looking for like a Malibu Barbie dream house. That's where he's on his way. You know,
it's very different from being a test pilot for Air Force. Very different career path.
Right, and so the whole idea that him wanting to be the hero and whatever seems to be counterpoint to what we're used to with the reason that Hal, you know, responds to Abin Sur and whatnot.
Yeah,
he's a test pilot who doesn't check for safety and stuff first. He just goes and does things.
Yeah, I think that's my guess right now, is that Abin Sur either is infected or doesn't mean to give the Black Hand out, and then recruits someone to take his Green Lantern power because he realizes he's dying after he realizes this planet's now in danger. And Joe, for whatever reason, is the one that's picked. Or maybe more than one is picked. Maybe both John's got powers too. Maybe it's divvied up and John's doing something else.
Yeah.
But
I'm wondering also too if this is how we're gonna get, like, we're just gonna jump right into the whole spectrum, right? And maybe that's where that whole thing, he called it the Green Lantern, you know, as Hal is mistaken that maybe each of them get something different, you know, and they're gonna have to learn how to work together to overcome whatever's coming. Because if the spaceship crashed, there was a reason why, you know, it wasn't just they were in pursuit of something or, you know, running from something else.
I mean, maybe Black Hand did something to bring the ship down. Maybe like this is kind of a crossing that happens. And as far as the spectrum goes, like who knows what the spectrum's like here? Is there other cores at all? And if there is, like, you know, how does it work? Or maybe I don't know. Like there's so much like mythology in Green Lantern that they could really like change if they want to here with this.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's also curious that Al Ewing coming from, you know, Thor and Hulk and that whole idea too. The way that the energy comes out of the Black Hand is very reminiscent of like a symbiote or like Gore, the God Butcher, and the Necro Sword and all that type of stuff too. So I think that's funny. And then the way that Hal is on the run, it was very Hulk, right? Him walking down the lonely desert.
Oh, very classic
and
Hulk.
The police comes up behind him. Yeah. So just, you know, some of these instincts that are there that I wouldn't usually associate with Green Lantern. And I think Ewing made it work for the better. But anyways, the art, I will say too, some of the faces come off a bit manga-ish, which isn't to my taste. So I wouldn't say that it's not bad, but it's just something that I noticed. And compared to some of the other art styles that we've gotten in the Absolute Universe, it's a bit more different, right? But I think that can work to its advantage because it's something like Dragota's art in Batman. I feel like it leans into Dragota's style. So I feel like this might lean into Lindsay's style once we really get going.
Yeah, I mean, all the Absolute books have had very different art styles, and I think that's fine. I think they all feel kind of distinct because of that. I do think I agree that some of the faces are a bit in the manga side, which I'm not super into. But I will say I think the layouts are pretty strong. I think the way it builds up through the scenes, the build up to the policeman at the start being dusted, I think it's really well done. The pacing's really good. Same with the Black Hand energy sort of swirling around the diner and stuff later, and Abensur coming. Like, all of that stuff is really well paced. So this is one of those cases where, like, the faces aren't really to my taste, but the actual overall vibe and aesthetic and pacing and sequential storytelling is very good. So I can kind of get by on that. But admittedly, will I ever pick it for Art of the Week because of the faces? Probably not. But that's, it's a personal taste thing more than it is anything else.
But like you said, the pacing's there because that whole sequence in the diner, right? You can feel the tension. And that's the story working with the art, and kind of perfection. And
he does that twice in this book, because he does it at the start with the cop, and then again diner, and they're both very effective. So I think there's a lot of confidence in the art, in terms of its telling its stories. So no complaints on that front. So no. So
looking at JAHNOY, Lindsay, the only other thing they've worked on for DC was that Superboy book that came out in 2023, The Man of Tomorrow. Where Connor went off into space.
Okay.
So which seems like there's just a ton of aliens to work with there. So again, I feel like this is going to lean into that side of things. But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just clicked the name to see what other books that they've worked on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm impressed with the fact that I have been into every Absolute book pretty much so far. And if I was to sort of at this point, because this is kind of the last one we know about for a while, I'm sure there's going to be more, but this is kind of the last of the issue ones for a bit. I think the weakest one overall is probably Flash. I still enjoyed it, but I think it's probably at the bottom of the list for me. I'm thinking ahead. It's kind of weird. It's a bit unfair to rank books that have had entire arcs versus just one issues. So it's hard to do a full ranking, but
you can compare all the first issues, right?
No, that's true. You could compare the first issues. Yeah.
And Flash is still, as much as I love the concept of Flash, right? And I have a soft spot, it is still the weakest. Martian Manhunter was a bit out there. This was a bit more straightforward, so I would probably put it right about there. Maybe a little bit over Martian Manhunter in terms of first issues. But I still think it's behind the first three.
It's definitely tough because they're doing very different things, and I can see, depending on your taste, like one or two of them really speaking to you more than the others, regardless of what anyone else says. I mean, we've kind of lined up and really loving the Wonder Woman book and feeling quite strong about the others. I mean, Connor's not as into Absolute Superman. He's a bit more mixed on that. So it's just interesting that I don't think there's been a dud. Like I think the quality's not been the exact same across the board, but everything's been at least I think even Flash has good potential, and there was things I liked in the first issue, although I think as a first issue it didn't excite me as much as this did, or Martian Manhunter did, and certainly not the Trinity of books did. So but the Absolute line is kind of cooking, so we'll see where we go with this, and it's kind of this interesting sense of discovery with all the books. It's almost kind of weird in the sense that it's like, okay, we've got this line of number ones launching within 4 months, 5 months of each other, depending, and they all feel quite fresh, and they're all very different takes on these classic characters, and some of them doing very wildly different things with them, and it feels quite good. And it got me thinking about the New 52 and how bad that felt, and I think there is just something to be said of those weren't different enough. And don't get me wrong, that would have still been a problem because we didn't want to lose the classic versions of the characters. Like, that's a problem in and of itself. But I think the reason why the Absolute Universe can work is because, we get to do really different versions of those characters. We get to go wild with how much we change and have unique voices with those characters.
Yeah. Like when the New 52 launched, Batman was still pretty much the same, and Green Lantern was still pretty much the same.
No, but
imagine.
But even the ones that were different, Matt, even the ones that it completely rebooted, like Superman, it just didn't it was kind of weird because it was treading water. It couldn't commit to being truly different. It had to kind of still ride the line of being recognizable and not doing anything that was going to piss people off. But obviously, it was pretty bad anyway, just because it, you know.
Yeah, the point that I was going to get to is imagine the Absolute kicks off, but it's like it still has those kind of restrictions to it, right? Where they still have to, you know, this still has to happen and this still has to happen because of editorial, as opposed to these have free reign, right? The Absolute universe, it seems like the creatives can kind of are doing what they want as of right now, which helps the line as a I
assume that there is some editorial oversight in the sense that they all have to fit together eventually. So there's probably some limits. There's probably some things you know, like I'm sure Al Ewing when he's writing Green Lantern can't just out of nowhere say, Thanagar get destroyed 50 years ago because, you know, in 6 months' time there might be an Absolute Hawkman that needs to do something with Thanagar. So there's probably still limits in places, but it seems like they have pretty open reign to do what they want with these characters here.
Right. So, and I feel like that's where it makes it feel stronger. And they're also rolling them out at a proper pace instead of just dropping, you know, 13 books on us, you know, and they all kind of meld together. So,
we've had, because we've had like maybe a full arc of the first 3 books by the time that all these, like this second wave, if you will, you know, Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter being the second wave of the books. Which is actually kind of nice in a weird way that they're focusing on Joe potentially, even though Hal gets more page time in this first issue. I think focusing on Joe as the main Lantern of this book, at least to begin with, is kind of nice because it means that each like wave of books has had like a female focused story, which is nice.
So that's true.
So, I don't know. Well, we'll see. Anyway, what were you giving Absolute Green Lantern, Matt?
I'm just a straight 8.
Yeah, I was thinking around there as well. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I think the sequential art's very good, and I kind of dig the kind of the almost horror movie vibe that I was getting from the Black Hand stuff, where it's this, like you say, a symbiote, something that's attached itself to him, and you know, I'm excited to discover all the new rules and all the things we're going to do with all that stuff. Absolute Green Lantern, issue 2, Al Ewing writing with JAHNOY, LINDSAY on the art. What did you think of issue 1 of this before we get into it?
I liked it a lot. Obviously, it's very different. Probably one of the more different versions of these Absolute books. The way it like has so many of the standard Earth Lanterns right from the off, all in like this one town and completely
Greenvale.
And changes like all of them like that. I think that's a very interesting take on what it is, and not what I expected going in.
Yeah, it's definitely playing with a lot of the not all of them, admittedly. You know, we've not seen like say a Kyle or a Jessica yet, I don't think, but we've got, you know, a bunch of them. It's interesting that Joe's the one that seems to be becoming the first Green Lantern out of the humans. That's kind of cool. And then Hal, of course, is like the Black Hand. You know, this universe's version of that is attached itself to him, and that's a whole thing. Well, let's just get the first thing out of the way. It's a shame Matt's not here for me to really enjoy this. But this is the 3rd time in like a year and a half where I have watched Guy Gardner die, and I love it. I love it. I love that they keep doing this just for me. It's so good.
Just you know, at least he's not going to die in the Superman movie.
I think you're right.
I think he might as well.
I think they put Guy Gardner as the first like Green Lantern we see in that universe because we can kill him. We can give him like a quick fun appearance and kill him, and it'll be okay.
I think there's a reason they cast Fillion for it and give him the stupid wig, and it is for that. But okay, I could be wrong, but yeah, I do suspect that is very likely.
Oh, it could be 4. That could be the 4th. That could be the 4th time I see Guy Gardner die. Oh dear. What a time.
Cool.
What a time to be alive. So it's still jumping backwards and forwards where we sort of pick up with Joe and Hal in that diner where Hal's hand like consumed everything. And also jumping back to just after Abin Sur arrived and sort of entrapped the town in the Green Dome.
Version of Abin Sur is like the Abin Sur, not
Yeah,
it's not a name. It's a thing or a title, maybe.
Yeah. At least that's the way they're saying it. I mean, does Abin Sur himself say it that way? I can't remember.
He says, "I am the Abin Sur."
Okay, right. And speaking of things being a bit more horror focused in this universe, like Abin Sur, like he looks creepier for a start.
He looks. I'm completely blanking on the name, but it's a very specific Dragon Ball villain. Majin Buu. It's Majin Buu. Yeah, like just trust me, it is
Majin Buu. How is anyone supposed to take that name seriously?
Majin, I think. And Buu, B-double-U. Well, B-U-U. Yeah.
All right, so Hal and Joe converse. She tries to sort of calm him down and say, did you do this? And he's like, I try to hold it back. Stay away from me, Joe. The hand's got a mind of its own. I try and hold it back, but willpower doesn't seem to work this thing, which obviously is specifically choosing that words for the sake of the whole thing. And of course, we see in the going back in time, we see Guy Gardner, sheriff of police, try and calm or talk to the alien, and get just straight up like absorbed. I guess we'll call it disintegrated. Tough to see.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happens to him. Like specifically, it's like he gets judged, right?
That's the way he puts it. Yes, you have been judged. Which, to be fair, he might just be like inside the Green Lantern energy or something. Like he might come back. This might not technically be a death, but
yeah, and they're being judged to see if they're without fear. So there is a possibility that he's okay in there somehow.
Yeah, and everyone obviously is like freaking out watching this. And he gets zapped though, and is just gone. Abin Sur looks all sinister. His face is all in shadow after that page, and he's like, Guy Gardner has been judged. Judgment is in progress. Be without fear. And then some of the other cops try and shoot at him, and he like chops off a head of one of them, right? Which I actually really like that sequence of panels in the art. And I said this last time about the first issue, is that the way that Lindsay draws people, I'm not necessarily completely in love with. It's not exactly to my taste. But I think the sequential element of the art is extremely good. And this is an example of that here. When at the bottom of this 9-panel grid, there's the 3 panels at the bottom where you see Abin Sur's like top, because he's got 4 arms. His top like left arm, or my left eye, comes across the panel, right?
And it's left as you look at it. It's his right arm.
Yeah, sure, whatever. But it goes across into the next panel, which has different coloring, and it's more red. And you're like, okay, what happened there? And what I love about that is that while obviously in the 3rd panel you see like the silhouette of the head coming off the policeman's body, I really like the touch though that even that break in between the first 2 panels, it feels like the moment where like a cut happens. Like like every like panel break feels like it's emphasizing the slice.
I love how this page is laid out as a 9-panel grid, but these bottom 3 panels where it happens, it's actually divided. There's a diagonal line going through the motion of his arm slashing, dividing these panels into 6, but they still function as 3 panels as well. But they're just this dividing line that just it's almost like speed lines, it's like a motion line, and it's just it's that hard cut of the arm, and it goes that panel divider goes exactly through the head neck spot.
Yeah, it feels like not that there's even a blade, literally in this case, but it's almost like a blade is going all across the frame through all the panels, and then ultimately through the head or the neck, I should say.
Yeah. Also,
really
the reason I think you don't like the faces, again, I've clocked in. I've called that a Dragon Ball reference in the character design. I think they're very manga-esque faces.
Oh, they are. No, I think I said that even, or maybe Matt said it, but we would definitely talked about that. And then another cut because his hand cut off. So
Roy,
there you go. Yes. So yeah, all carnage again, very horror movie-esque in a lot of ways. The way this all goes down, and for some reason Hal. And to be fair, I do think this is in character for Hal. When I think of Hal Jordan doing something
stupid and impulsive.
Yeah, that's exactly Hal Jordan. So I can't fault this, but he picks up one of the guns that have been dropped and points it at Abin Sur, and everyone's like, Hal, did you not just see what happened to everyone else that just tried to shoot at it? Maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't do this. So it's a whole thing. Anyway, Abin Sur like sort of takes off, like a rocket with Green Lantern energy, and yeah, and so they're trying to like save one of the cops that was shot or was injured, and everyone's sort of trying. And it turns out that Hal still has the gun, like he never handed it over, and it kind of like materializes out of his black hand. Like it's made of the energy or something. So it definitely gives this idea that this hand is consuming things, because he was able to bring it back out as if it was in there in some capacity. So
which makes you think that maybe that's what Abin Sur was doing with some other people as well. Like Guy, like they're still in there in some form.
Like, is he collecting people for a reason or something? Tough to say. But then again, we don't know how Joe ended up with this green power either. So we still don't have the full picture of like all the town events that lead to that. So we're still kind of in the dark for some of that. But Hal does mention that he can hear like the voice of this thing talking about black stars or something like that, which is what I was saying was kind of linking up with the name drop in the other book. So that's there as well. And they're still talking about what to do. And the book ends on John Stewart having an idea, because he pulls out a gold ring and he says he's got a plan or an idea. And I was actually sitting thinking about this, like because obviously it's a ring, right? So first of all, you're just immediately thinking, wait, what? Because so far all we've seen from like Abin Sur and what we've seen from Joe in the later part of the timeline, there's no ring from as far as we can tell. It seems like the energy is just inside them or something, right? It just comes from them. And part of me was thinking, is John is some sort of engineer here going to do something with the ring to harness something? But then I remembered that in the last issue, when the police officer was like disintegrated by Hal, the badge didn't go, or the badge stayed behind and sort of just landed on the ground. So I'm wondering if we're doing like if not yellow, but like gold is like immune to like the energy from these things, and like he's noticed that, but maybe he's put the ring through the force field or something, or I don't know.
I wonder if it's less the color and more the metal.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, it's literally gold is the important part, not the color. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting though. I'm curious. So I don't know what his plan is necessarily, but it's hard not to get hyped though with him holding up a ring, saying like, oh yeah, how do we get to rings in this? Given that like it doesn't seem to be a part of the Green Lantern thing itself. So I wonder, like, do they find a way of channeling what energy they get from it through the rings, and that sort of is the start of that? Like maybe the human lanterns design it.
I could see it potentially being the opposite, where you use the rings to suppress it, and they have to take the rings off to access the power in future.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Maybe it keeps them like cool, effectively. Yeah. And then they take them off to like go nuts. Yeah, maybe they'll give Hal like a big gold glove or something that it can like completely.
But maybe even just like a ring on the finger, like that neutralizes the hand enough, but then he can take it off to use the hand once he's figured it out a little bit more.
Yeah. But notably, this moment where he has this idea is in the earlier part of the timeline, before all this stuff at the diner with Hal and all that happened. So whatever was going on isn't going to work, at least to the extent where it solved everything like before then, right? Maybe the ring idea will still work if that's indeed what they're going to do with it. But
yeah, but it's the start of something.
Yeah. No, very, very. It's a very interesting, different vibe to what Green Lantern usually is. And like I said about the first issue, like you say, the manga style to the faces I'm not particularly a fan of, but I do think the sequential art and how it handles building moments in the scenes is very, very good. I think there was maybe more examples of it in the first issue, because there was, the whole thing with the standoff with the cop who got disintegrated, the big green emblem coming down from the sky, like all those things were really, really well done. This issue has a little bit less of it, because it's maybe more just characters talking to each other, but there is those standout moments like the decapitation that really just, I think, sing in a way that makes everything feel like it flows very well. So
yeah, I'm way more into the art than you are. Obviously, the sequential is great, but I'm not turned off by the manga styling. So I don't have that like going against it for me. So I'm really into it. I think it's probably my second favorite art out of the Absolute books so far.
Oh, that's okay. That's bold, but
yeah, it's fighting for second place with Martian Manhunter.
Okay, all right. Yeah. It's funny because I think this book is definitely it didn't grab me necessarily as much as the initial Trinity or Martian Manhunter did with its first issue, but I think after 2 issues, it's building something really unique that's different to them that I'm really into and I'm excited about. I think for me, the one that's been the least interesting so far is Absolute Flash. It's not bad, and I definitely am a bit more into it after issue 2, but it definitely feels the most like straightforward out of all of them.
I've not read issue 2 yet, but obviously I was here for issue 1. I was not thrilled by it. It's definitely the least interesting. I still think I'm enjoying Absolute Superman less overall. I'm just not, barring this issue, I'm just not as into that book. And that's had a lot more time to try and grab me. But all the other ones in their first issue of, barring Flash, all the other ones have like hooked me to some level.
I think it's a very successful line that we're talking about only one maybe being a little, I mean, for you it's maybe 2, but for like me and Matt, it's just the one that's not hitting
even
right away.
2 out of, what was it, 6, 7?
6 at this point, I think.
6, yeah. That's still 3/4 of the line working for me.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty good batting rate. Right now.
I'm happy with that. Like, while I'd love to enjoy every single book in the line, that's it. I think the fact that they are taking risks, I suppose, with it, like they're tonally and stylistically quite different. They're not. There is no house style to the Absolute books in the same way that there often is in the main line. So the fact that they are so different means that it's more likely that one of them won't hit for you.
Yeah, and I like that there's no like through line style. I like that they all get to feel a little bit unique. And
I agree. That's a good thing. Like I can see, for example, Manhunter really not working for a lot of people. I can see that turning a lot of people off. But also, I kind of loved it, and I like. But then maybe there are people who love the Flash book. I don't know. I haven't met any yet, but maybe they're out there.
I don't think the Flash was bad. It's just not as capturing.
It's not exciting.
Yeah. Just one thing I mentioned on this before we rate it is that I do also like the part where Hal's talking about what the Black Hand might be, and he's sort of like being kind of vague, but he's like, oh, it feels like something that should be forgotten, that it should be weak, that no one believes in, but something fed it and something changed and now it's strong. And that he's almost talking about it like it's Freddy Krueger. Like, if no one believes in it, there's no power. But because someone started believing in it, so someone gave it the power to like kind of get kickstarted. And I'm very curious as to what that is. Like, who gave it a jump start?
I also realize in the context of Green Lantern mythos, willpower, like belief is not that different to willpower. Like, I think there's a side of it that I think ties in quite nicely. And yeah, I think there's definitely something there.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious. All right, what are you rating Absolute Green Lantern issue 2?
Ooh, I'll give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I'm gonna go straight 8. Only just because, like, I think I will like it even more once it feels like these timelines are either converging or there's. I think the conversation between Joe and Hal is very good, but I think all the stuff seeing in the town was a lot more exciting naturally. So
that's fair. I can't imagine this lasting more than like one arc. Yeah, it feels like it has to be okay. This is the first arc, and then we move on from there.
I think they'll converge at the end of like issue 5 or 6, however long this arc is. It's lasting. Absolute Green Lantern issue 3, Al Ewing writing with JAHNOY, LINDSAY on the art. I think that, I really liked the first issue of this, and I think it was intriguing. I think issue 2 continued that. I think this is again the best issue of this book. I think it's been getting better with each issue.
I like this one so much, and the dawning of John Stewart's plan. I feel so dumb that it took me that long to realize why
I kind
the things are able to penetrate.
Yeah,
right?
I kind of pieced it together last issue, actually. Because there was hints in the last issue.
Okay.
And I didn't know for sure, obviously, but this kind of like went down the path that I thought. But the detail that I didn't quite predict was that it didn't have to actually be gold. Like, just even coating it in the color gold would be enough to have some effect. Now, it does seem like actual gold, like, you know, pure gold will have more of an effect, but if you just paint something else, the color gold, it'll still have an effect. So this is kind of going back to the whole idea of yellow being the weakness. It's like a take on that kind of thing.
When he takes the Blue Devil, which I also love seeing Blue Devil, right? And he's like an actual movie character in universe, and that Hal had this collectible of this. Essentially, it's a Funko Pop, right? They call it something else. Can't remember the name. That's close, but it's like the gold edition, and it's plated with this gold paint. And he just throws it through the dome, and it cuts through. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, it's because it's like yellow, and just the dawning of it hit. Yeah. I thought that was really well handled.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth mentioning that specifically here it is gold, they keep saying, so it's not just anything vaguely yellow. I think it has to be gold. Now, admittedly, like if you're one little shade off, like, does that still count? You know, there's a lot of pernickety questions you could ask if you wanted to.
And I do love that John's cleaned that up in the mid-2000s. It was like, yes, it's a weakness for unexperienced Lanterns, that once you learn to overcome that power of fear, because he did the whole parallax stuff, it stuff does work on yellow, but it's still a little bit weak to it too. So I wonder if that's what we're kind of building to too, that once you have like a mastery over the slight or whatever, it won't, you know, it won't be as easy, right? Because it's a person.
I mean, I'm not even thinking about that yet, because it's not important yet. It's not like a part of what we're doing.
No, but just with the way that the Green Lantern Corps is being served with this monstrous. Why am I drawing a blank on him?
Sir?
Abin Sur, yeah, with the monstrous version of him and whatever too. Like there's so much mystery surrounding the Green Lantern Corps, you know, and it's like, well, you know, what's up with this yellow, right?
You keep saying core. Gold. How do you know it's a core in this case?
True. It might just be him, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the context is. Like, Green Lantern Corps is something specifically from the regular universe. We have no idea if there's a core here.
True.
So yeah, I mean, this issue mostly takes place in the back part of the timeline, which is in the town. They're trapped in this, you know, this bubble of green energy. The remains of Guy Gardner are being eaten by vultures, which, you know,
Is it Guy, or this is the motor? I thought this was the motorcyclist that hit. They're looking at it on the outside because there's no green tinge to it.
You know what? That makes a bit more sense. I just saw it before, because you see it before they start talking about it. I just assumed it was Guy and moved on with my life. I guess Guy's already been eaten.
Only because of something that happens later about the judgment. I think there's more going on there.
Sure. No, you're probably I think you're probably right. But let me joke about that dumb bitch Guy Gardner being dead. Like, they don't need to.
You're fine. I just
pernickety here.
I'm just saving you the corrections that are bound to come. All right.
So yeah. Anyway, so you know, the last issue ended with John Stewart picking up the ring and kind of like wondering about it, and he's explaining that, hey, there's something strange here. They also explain here that people on the outside of the bubble don't see the green bubble. They just kind of get mentally kind of like coerced into like, oh, we'll turn back. We won't drive this way. We'll just turn around. So that's what we see a van do. So they kind of speculate on that a little bit. But John Stewart throws the ring through the dome, and it does go through, and it's giving him an idea. So he goes to Hal Jordan, but then we cut back to the present day stuff, which is basically just that Hal can't control the Black Hand, and ultimately attacks Joe. So we get a bit of an action sequence where she like fights back, and then Hal goes flying out of this diner into like the desert outside. It's a fun,
and we get
it's a fun few panels, I'll say, because you get the big fist hitting the shadow of Hal, and then the wide panel of the beam of him flying away.
Yeah,
it was really good.
So because it seems like the energy that's coming off of his hand in the Black Hand, it seems more like it's tingerly, right? Like it's crawling around, and then when we see the big force go through it right at the top of that page, where she's like pushing, and then it makes the fist and it comes through, and it just shows like the difference in these two abilities. I think the art really is doing some heavy lifting here.
Yeah, and of course there's a moment where, you know, Hal says, how are you controlling that light? And she's like, I don't know how. And then he can control it. And obviously we know that, at least traditionally, the green light is controlled with willpower. Obviously that's not the answer to what Hal's got, because Hal has something else entirely. But I do like that we're kind of like having them sort of touch around this idea that Joe just has the will to control this and wield it. But it's interesting all the same, though. And I did notice that she is indeed wearing a ring where the light seems to be emanating from in one of those panels. So we'll obviously we're building up in the backstory to see how she ends up with that. But yeah, so that's going on, and then we go back again, and John goes to Joe and says, "Hey, like, if you got your old wedding ring kicking around," and she's kind of like weirdly like confused as why he would bring this up. It's bringing up painful memories, yada yada. But then we get the scene you were talking about where Hal gives him this stupid gold collectible, and he basically just holds it through the dome and pops it out on the other side. And it's like, hey, and because this is the scene that established this doesn't need to actually be gold. It just needs to be in the color of gold. So it's like, okay, what do we do with actual gold then? And of course he throws the ring. I think it's his grandmother's ring or something like that. And he throws it at the thing, and a hole appears. It disappears quite quickly, but a full-on hole appears in the dome. And they start talking about, hey, is it possible for us to make a hole big enough if we get everything we can that's gold in the town? Can we make a hole for someone to get out and maybe go get help? So I really dug that. Just because it's them being practical, it's them figuring out the rules. This is the sort of thing that, separate from any typical Green Lantern myth, forget Green Lantern as a concept just now. When it comes to movies with horror or science fiction, I always enjoy proactive characters who are trying to figure out the boundaries of this like weird, unique thing they've been confronted with, whether it's something supernatural or something science fiction-y. So Jon Stewart being proactive and trying to figure out the rules and have the characters starting to sort of come on board and work together is kind of exciting to me, and it makes me like the characters more. And then the fact that as soon as they're getting somewhere, immediately Abin Sur's like, hey, Jon Stewart, you're being judged, and disintegrates him. The fact that he's now done this to both John and Guy makes me think that they're probably going to end up becoming back later, right? If it was just Guy, I'd be like, he's gone, he's dead, bye-bye. But now that it's both of them, I'm like, okay, you know what? I think being judged is taking them somewhere for training or something, like, assuming there's a core. There may not be, but I don't think this is death necessarily right now.
No, because of the opening page, it's with all the black, and it's that round, almost like a ring, talking to Jon Stewart, and says that he's been not chosen. What's it say? Let me get to that front page again. My iPad is not cooperating. But it says, you must have knowledge to command the flame. You must be without fear, entirely without. And it's just John saying, I know. And so it makes me think that, there's something afoot here.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
No, sorry. What I was going to say was irrelevant. I figured out my answer before I finished the sentence.
Got you.
No, I forgot about that first page. That first page is quite interesting, which does, because I assumed this blackness though with the ring was more to do with Black Hand, just because of the color scheme, right? But now that I'm looking through all the pages with Hal, there's never any visuals like that with him. However, the one other time in the book where it does appear is when John's explaining like his theories to the other two, Hal and Joe, and he says the substance that turns base metal. He's talking about the Philosopher's Stone. He's talking about alchemy, and he says, "Hey, it's the substance that turns base metal into gold. It can also heal wounds, prolong life, creates what would you call it? An
ever-burning lamp."
No, before that, homunculus, whatever that's pronounced.
Homunculus. Right? So homunculus is like a thing that it's a human-like thing that gets life breathed in, usually made of clay. And stuff like that. Okay. When he says light an ever-burning lamp, that's when you get a panel of that white circle on black. And it's almost like if there is like a voice inside like whatever the ring's power is or whatever it is, if there's something in there, it feels like it took notice of him at that point. And it almost sounds like he's talking about like, okay, he's using Philosopher's Stone because it's like a mythological thing he's heard of. But what if he's kind of describing here is the green flame? It's the Green Lantern energy. Yeah.
That they're
Because
gonna
after
tap
that, he
into.
says it's a symbol of enlightenment, and it says what is base becomes gold through knowledge, right? And then it just ties that whole thing of gold throughout the whole rest of the issue. But yeah, it almost is like whatever this ring thing is did take notice of him here. So yeah, I do like though how we're getting all these characters that we associate with Green Lantern early on here, right? We got John and Joe and Hal, Guy. They mentioned Todd, and you find out that is Obsidian. I forget what his last name is, but in the regular universe, and that his dad runs the diner, right? And it's Alan. So I do like that they're using all of that type of stuff here and subverting it in certain ways. But it does feel like they're using the community to kind of shore up the Green Lantern story, which I like, using the Green Lantern characters.
Yeah, I just think it's done a good job of building its own separate mythology, which is why I'm hesitant to even compare anything that it's doing to past Green Lantern stuff or runs or anything that was ever done with the mythology before in the regular universe, because it feels like it's building everything from scratch, beyond just the idea that there's an energy that they can tap into. Like, it just kind of feels like this is from scratch a completely new science fiction take on what Green Lantern even is. But it's using all these characters, like you say, so we're getting this kind of interesting thing where they're all interacting in these different ways. They all know each other. We don't have all of them yet, but we've got a lot of them already in this town. So excited to see where they keep going with this.
The fact that we have Todd Rice here, and he shoots at Abin Sur, and he tells him to be without fear. Now that I think about it, the stuff that's going on with Hal, it seems a lot like Obsidian's power, right? A lot of that shadow stuff. So I'm wondering if that's, we're using the Black Hand iconography, but I'm wondering if it's this, the lack of light, like this void that we traditionally associate with Obsidian. I wonder if that's what they're going for. I mean, Joe's kind of like
they may be mixing
the opposite.
They may be mixing the two, Matt, but I think you're forgetting that Hal did call it the Black Hand. No,
I know, but like for me, Black Hand's all about like the death and stuff, but that's not how this is operating. Right?
Oh no, I get it.
Like,
it's
not
different.
even like the.
I'm just saying that, like, I don't think it's going to turn out to just be Obsidian's thing. Like, I think maybe they're trying to connect the two together.
No. Yeah. But that's what I mean. It's like if this green is meant to be the light, then that is the absence of light, right? And that just it's playing all with the other Green Lantern themes. You know what I mean? And that didn't dawn on me until right now. When, I mentioned that, Todd Rice, that's Obsidian, and he's standing in front of Alan Scott's Atom Bomb Cafe and Diner, right? So, again, it was just more of the Green Lantern stuff being,
And obviously, Todd has really little to do with the Green Lantern Corps in the regular universe, but he is the Golden Age Green Lantern son, so there is, like, this connection to part of the mythos. So it is interesting to see them playing with that in a little bit of a different way. But yeah, I don't know. It's almost like, maybe, because it's interesting that Abin Sur does not take Todd, right? He says judgment is in progress, be without fear, but he doesn't take him. He just disappears. Unlike John and previously Guy, where he made them disappear. Maybe they're still alive somewhere, maybe they're not. But I think it was very easy to kind of misread what he was doing to them because of the way he took someone else's hand. But obviously he never took the guy whose hand that he cut off. He just kind of left him there. So, very curious, very curious. Excited to see where we go with all this. Obviously the fact that now John is also gone. So even though he gave them an idea that they might be able to use, there's obviously this fear that, maybe it's hopeless because immediately Abin Sur just showed up and took care of it and we're being kind of, held captive under this alien's regime. But of course the final page, the cliffhanger, is Barry, that's not Barry, say Hal, not Barry, I'm switching characters. Hal is painting bullets gold, which would suggest that he wants to try and kill Abin Sur. So that's a really cool cliffhanger to end this on. I feel like this issue, more than the first two, really felt like it established what the story is right now. Like, I really liked a lot of the things that the first two issues set up. But I think this one, by spending so much time just continuously on the town, in the bubble, where John's trying to figure things out and they establish some things, and by the end they give Hal this motivation to try and get revenge. I think it really felt like it's got a solid ground under its feet now compared to what it was before, and it feels like it was already interesting. It was already kind of it's always very curious about what they were doing with all the various elements. I think this is where it's kind of formed into, oh, I'm actually engaged in the story and I understand what the story is so far. So I think that's cool. I think this has gotten better.
And just how the light is on that last page with Hal as he's painting these bullets gold, right? How the light is, there's this green over him, and then just he's surrounded by the darkness too. Like it's just very good visual storytelling.
I guess if I was to make a theory right now, I would say that maybe, okay, so let's say Hal kills Abin Sur, which is an interesting twist in what usually happens with Abin Sur. What if the reason why he gets taken over with the Black Hand is because Abin Sur, this entire time up front, is keeping it at bay with his powers because he can. But by killing Abin Sur, it lets that darkness out, and it goes to it goes to Hal. I keep saying Barry for some reason. It goes to Hal, and somehow Joe ends up, with the Green Lantern power. Like, whether or not Abin Sur chooses to give that to her, whether or not she just happens to be there by happenstance and ends up with it, whatever it may be.
I mean, in the traditional origin, right? It's dying Abin Sur, but it bestows this power onto Hal Jordan. But what if Hal Jordan's causing his death and it gets bestowed to Joe?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. Even the idea that he bestows the power could be changed. Like I'm like, we can't assume anything. Like there's so many possibilities as to how it might play out.
Or she takes it, right? Like she's there.
Yeah, maybe she takes it. Maybe because either she gets the idea, or like I say, maybe she's just there. Like she's the one that happens to be there, and whether because the ring just wants a new owner, or because she decides to take it. What if it's just happenstance? Or does she specifically go out of her way to grab it because she sees what happens to Hal? Or because by the time we get to that point, maybe in like 2 issues or whatever it's going to be, there's a possibility that Joe by that point will understand some of this a bit more than we do now. Like she might have a bit more of an idea that there's two, there's the light and the darkness and one's fighting the other. Maybe she'll feel that she needs to take the green power because she can recognize that this darkness, this Black Hand, is out and needs to be taken care of. That said, though, the way she talks to Hal in the present day stuff doesn't completely indicate that she knows exactly what it is necessarily, but she does seem to know that she needs to try and deal with it and like catch Hal. So, we'll see how that goes. I will say though, the black if Abin Sur's disintegrating of John and Guy isn't killing them, I do think that the Black Hand disintegrating the cop last issue or in issue 1, whatever that was. I do think that was a death. I think they're gone. But
I agree.
Just a gut feeling more than anything. So there you go. Yeah. That's very good. That's very good. Like I think the sequential art's very good. I still obviously don't love necessarily the faces all the time. It's a little bit manga inspired for my my taste, but I can't fault the pacing of it and the way that it tells the story, because that side of it is very good, and I've been saying that since issue 1, so it's very consistent. So I think in terms of the characters finally kind of like putting some pieces together and solving through some of the ideas, I think this issue really like found its footing in a way that it's not even like I was missing it before, but I think now it feels like, oh, it's coming together.
It feels more coherent.
Yeah. So, no, really good stuff. I'm surprised they didn't change it to the Sorcerer's Stone for this issue, though.
No, we're trying to distance from that right now.
All right, what were you rating Absolute Green Lantern?
I'm gonna go straight 8.
I think I'm going with 8.5. Absolute Green Lantern issue 4, Al Ewing writing with JAHNOY LINDSAY on the art. So we're getting to some answers kind of in this issue. This has been kind of getting a bit more exciting with each passing issue as well, as we'll be getting a clearer picture of what's going on. It's been kind of teasing stuff. I mean, hell, even this first page, which is like, okay, we thought the Hal Jordan stuff was Black Hand related, and I think it still is, but then you have this orange bleeding in and saying that, inside the circle is a Black Star, so now we're doing Black Star stuff. And I'm like...
The Dark Stars, and we also get a Weaponers of Quard a reference, which in mainline continuity, that's who gave Sinestro the first yellow ring. They're from the antimatter universe. So, you know, there's some big things there. There's a lot. Al Ewing is throwing a lot out in this issue, but it's very exciting because they're like little breadcrumbs for us to follow.
It's making a lot of this stuff feel a lot more kind of have a bit more mystique than it does in the main universe, which is kind of interesting. So, yeah, Joe and Hal are having their kind of confrontation. Hal kind of acts out at her when she's questioning him, and he kind of forms like a suit around him, which is pretty gnarly. He's got like red eyes in it, but is mostly this black kind of muscle mass. But we flash back, as we've been doing throughout this whole arc, we've been flashing back to what happened in the town, and we find out that most of the town's gone. Like, Joe and Hal were two of the last few people left, and he obviously had his plan at the end of the last issue with the gold bullets to maybe take out Abin Sur. So they've got a plan where she's going to come out and distract him, and Hal may get a shot off. Surprising to them, though, and completely changing the way things happen here, is that when she calls out Abin Sur and he comes down to talk to her, she demands to know why he's killed everyone, why he's killed almost 3,000 people that live in this town. And he gets very confused and says, "Kill them all? I do not understand what you mean." And this is sort of the first breadcrumb of like, wait a minute, all this like this disappearing people thing might not be what we thought it was in the first place. And we kind of speculated that we didn't think John Stewart was already dead.
Yep.
I mean, I hoped it for Guy, obviously, but
of course she did.
That's
of course she did. Yeah, because when he says, when Abin Sur starts talking, he says, "Yeah, but you know, the guy on the motorcycle, but that had to do with the force field. That was an oopsie. He's the only one that's actually dead." And you're just like, oh, shoot. All right, so where'd they all go?
There was a second one. There was the one the bullet ricocheted and killed that woman.
Yes.
So there was a second one that was, again, not really Abin Sur's fault directly. So during this, you're thinking, oh, is Hal still going to take the shot and cause all the problems? Is that because he doesn't hear what's happening? But Joe's going to understand that Abin Sur's not killed anyone yet. However, that's not actually how it goes down. What happens is that Joe accidentally kills Abin Sur, which is kind of wild. So basically, Abin Sur reveals that everyone who's disappeared exists on Oa, the Omega Alpha. They're in the second stage, and Judgment's still in progress, which obviously she doesn't quite understand. And hell, even we don't understand, because is Oa even a planet in this context? Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
It still seems very sinister. You know, he says they're the Alpha Omega, and that's just like, or the Omega Alpha, which means, to me, that makes it sound like it's an in-between, almost like a purgatory. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know. That's felt like it was taking a turn where maybe whatever Abin Sur's doing is not inherently bad. It was the vibe I was getting. So I wasn't getting sinister from what he was saying here. This felt like it was turning a corner. But of course, Abin Sur ultimately is going to leave, right? He says fear Quard, right, for one thing, right, which obviously is, like you say, tying into the old Silver Age origin of Sinestro and how he, you know, because back in the day, in the Silver Age, like there was like just characters from Quard who would be villains in Green Lantern from the Antimatter universe, and then like you say, they kind of fit that in with Sinestro's Yellow Lantern origin by them helping him sort of like make that a thing. So that's like an interesting name drop, if nothing else. But, you know, he says, you now have understanding, Judgment's in progress. And she's like, no, what do you mean be without fear? What the hell are you talking about? And as he's teleporting away with his Green Lantern light, she reaches her hand out to grab him into the light. However, she doesn't think about the fact that she's wearing a gold wedding ring. And seemingly, this causes a disastrous effect, which just, I don't know, completely, obliterates him. I don't even know what to call it. He kind of, he's clearly in pain, and he sort of lands and sort of says chaotic action anomaly, and he's sort of freaking out. But he's lost control of the ship, although let's not gloss over the 2-page layout, where seemingly a lot of things around the universe are reacting to whatever the shockwave is that she's caused. Couple of standouts. There's an eye, which might be Sinestro. Is that, am I reading that right? Because there's a sort of red skin.
Yeah, he looks like a Korrigar. Whoever it is looks like a Korrigarian.
Yeah.
So I thought the same thing.
We also have, is that Tumar Ray?
Yeah.
or one
So
of his kind at the very least.
Yeah, a Zudarian, but it looks like a different kind of energy. It looks like that the red orangish one that you were talking about that was bleeding in at the beginning.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, or maybe
so what does that mean?
Or maybe something else entirely. It's hard to say, but it feels like the shockwaves of what Joe's just done is rippling throughout all these things, or at the very least, these are all the things that are kind of in Abin Sur's head that he's worried about now that like he's not going to be able to continue whatever he was doing his mission.
It looks like she soul punched him almost, right? It's almost like it's knocking through like these ripples through reality, like you're saying. Maybe it is the thoughts on his mind, but it definitely feels like these are ripple effects that have now come from, her breaking through that barrier, right? And actually being able to touch him.
Yeah, and she's surrounded by the green light when after this happens. It's almost like she's taking it from him in some way, even if by accident, which is still a pretty big difference from the whole Abin Sur handing the power over because he realizes he's dying. But the big tragedy that happens here, and it's not as bad as it could be because they've already established that the town's basically empty, but the big Green Lantern ship that was hovering above just falls down onto the town and like destroys and crushes like a huge chunk of it. So it's better than it could have been because it could have been populated. Yeah, but still.
But it's still this big spaceship that crashed into their town in rural Nevada.
Yeah.
So, which I love as the whole Area 51 and being a local here, all the talk, the fact that now there is a spaceship that has crashed in Nevada, it gave me quite a chuckle.
Yeah, and we kind of go to like a woman on a plane, and I was thinking, was this Carol? Are we interested in Carol somehow? And it's not. This is the assistant. I mean, I suppose it could still turn out to be Carol because, hey, it's the...
Yeah. We don't got a name, but she is wearing violet. Dark hair. You know, she checked some of the boxes.
It was the dark hair that was making me think, but this is the assistant to another character, and this is going to be a big reveal because they do all the close-up panels of the hands, of the feet stepping off the helicopter. But the big reveal here is that like billionaire Hector Hammond comes stepping off the chopper to investigate this crash site. Crash site is what I was trying to say.
Crash site, yeah.
Yes. And it's like, okay, he's looking very dapper. He's clearly very successful here. He feels a bit different to what we typically think Hector Hammond of.
This dude is dressed in gaudy amounts of gold, and everything around him is gold, and that's going to be a problem for the green energy. That's all that like you said, like the panels are doing that reveal thing where we're getting a little piece, but it's also showing off amounts of yellow and gold. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I think this is more just his ego is going to like be happenstance that it's the weakness to the greens. Yep. However, there is always the possibility that he somehow already knows about them and like he's decked out in gold because he knows this is their weakness.
No, I just think he's that gaudy person that could be gold with success. But the fact that Ewing and JAHNOY LINDSAY are highlighting the amount of gold that he's wearing, I just think it's going to be like, this is the worst possible person to show up for all of this type of stuff. It's someone that loves gold.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I'm definitely excited to eventually get to like whatever Sinestro's going to be in this universe, but it's kind of fun to get to someone like him first up. Hammond. I mean, is this technically the end of the first arc? This is issue 4, so I think there's maybe one more, perhaps.
Yeah, this does feel not like a cliffhanger, but like an end piece. Like, all right, we're, now we have, because Joe's still dealing with Hal and his Black Hand, Dark Star, whatever
we're still doing that, and I can still buy that there's more flashbacks right after the ship crashes as well. I can see there being more after that, so I think maybe there's probably at least one more continuing this current like format of going backwards and forwards.
And also this whole process of the Green Lanterns, coming over, taking these people, weighing them for judgment, and then like, do they return them? Is this just part of the process? Is this how they find the person, right, that is meant to hold the green? And now Joe, because of her, because of what she did, now the power has been thrusted upon her, in a way, which will make her.
That last part's definitely true either way. I think the most obvious interpretation of what this judgment is for is deciding a new Green Lantern. However, I feel like in some ways that's almost so simple that maybe that's just the only thing we can guess, because it's the only thing that kind of fits in our understanding of what Green Lantern normally is. It could be something that we couldn't even possibly like predict or think about, you know? Maybe they're building an ark because they know the universe is coming to an end, so they're trying to save enough humans from Earth to keep us going, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, because this is Darkseid's universe too. So like if the people of Oa are onto the whole Great Darkness, then maybe that's their thing. They're trying to find the worthy, that are worth the arc. And that's why what she did was this chaotic action and as an anomaly. It was something that they didn't take, didn't think through. Because this is very much Green Lantern meets kind of Arrival, the Denis Villeneuve movie. So
a little bit,
really enjoying this one. Like that Soul Punch panel with all those little, like, I'm gonna call them Easter eggs, right? With the Zudarian, which what looks like, Sinestro.
I would go a step further and say they're teases. I don't think these are just Easter eggs or just by like, we want to just kind of like. I think these are all things that they're planning to get to in the course of the story.
That makes that's a better phrase. What you do, like teases. That's a much better word for it than an Easter egg. But it's this book. I mean, it's still Green Lantern, but it's just different enough where I'm still so intrigued by where this, like, not where it goes, right? Because we kind of have that feeling, but how much Ewing is tweaking Green Lantern mythos and it's still working. This concept of the core and the yellow light and the dark stars, all this other stuff. Like I'm wondering if we're ever going to get Manhunters and what that's going to be like. Because imagine like they had the Manhunters that ran this system, but they had the same problem. They were too mechanical, too logical. And that's why now the Abin Sur is doing it and this weird hybridization of it. I
don't know. It's kind of hard to say. But I do really think that this issue and last issue really, like, I mean, I enjoyed the first two, but I think this one and last one have really kind of felt like it's came together and, like, we've got a bit more of a solid footing and we're kind of, like, trying to now theorize about how this version of the Lantern mythos is going to work, how the spectrum is going to work, as because I assume the other colors are going to exist, like the other, whether or not they're Lantern cores yet or they're something a little bit different. But I'm
wondering, because the symbol for the Green Lanterns in this it's that ring of light. So I'm wondering if how their Green Lanterns are is that green is the easiest for them to touch into, but if they kind of have that power and like the opposite side of the spectrum, the red, the orange, the yellow, that kind of the Dark Star can kind of get in there, right? And that's what we're kind of seeing as it bleeds through. Like it's all one power source, right? But it's what they're choosing to tap into. That's what makes it the spectrum.
I mean, it's impossible to predict how they're going to treat it rules-wise in this universe, so I'm not even going to start to speculate. I just don't. There's no footing yet to even start, so I'm not even going to. But I'm excited to find out what they're doing with it and like how they start to tease maybe some of the other spectrum energy coming in. And I mean, I don't know. That's me. I don't know if I've got anything else to add. So no, good stuff. I think the big payoff to, I think the idea that we just assumed that Hal did something bad because he's currently the one attached to something that's making him do bad things. I don't think any of us predicted that Joe's the one who accidentally did something bad. So that's kind of a neat twist. And then also just this big climactic moment where the ship falls out the sky. It feels big. It feels epic. They do those 3 vertical panels of it falling out the sky to give you the sense of the trajectory going down. And then obviously the big 2-page spread of the actual blast. And I love that the blast itself almost looks like the top half of a Green Lantern symbol. It's got the dome, and then there's like a ring above it that makes it look like the line at the top. Like very intentional design there, I feel like. So really good stuff. And then of course the green of the ship really stands out against the orange desert on that next page when you see it in the broad daylight. So solid, great book. Having a good time. Excited to see where we go next with it. Matt, what are you giving Absolute Green Lantern?
I'm gonna give it a straight 8.
I'm gonna give 8.5. I'm gonna give 8.5. Having a good time. Absolute Green Lantern issue 5, Al Ewing writing with JAHNOY LINDSAY on the art. So yeah, this one's getting intriguing. Like the build up of like exactly how everything works in this version of Green Lantern is still at play. The opening page here is just that black void with the white ring saying Todd Rice, be with fear, and that phrase "be with fear" keeps coming up throughout most of the issue. So we the cliffhanger last time was Hector Hammond landing with his entourage at the town in the aftermath, and it's Todd Rice who's been pulled from the wreckage, who's still alive in a stretcher, and we see how much of a prick that Hector Hammond is, where he fires someone for daring to say that he should not talk yet and try and conserve his energy so they can like help him heal, and Hector's like, no, talk now, tell me everything you know. So yeah, we get a little bit of perspective from him. We get more of the incident of what happened to Hal. Now, I was going to maybe say, oh, we finally know how Hal like turned into like the Black Hand or whatever, but we see it happen. I don't know if we understand exactly what's happening. So it, I think there's still some more to get the gist of here.
I read this 3 times trying to figure out what exactly the hell's going on. Right? And just it involves a melting Abin Sur and yelling of the Black Hand. And now Hal is cursed with this, and his hand falls off and reforms. And it was just some really cool sci-fi body horror. You know, like you said, I don't quite understand it, but that's okay.
So what happens here is that Joe's just gotten the green power. She's an anomaly. That's what he yelled at her last time. You're an anomaly, right? So that's where we left off last issue with her. And Hal's still pointing the gun with the gold bullets at Abin Sur. And, he's like, oh, she's an anomaly. Anomalies cannot exist in the spectrum of light. So she's something special. She's something different. And Abin Sur is saying, be with fear. And Hal unloads the clip into him to the point where he keeps firing and it's just clicking empty. And he's like, that was for John, you bastard, blah, 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 blah. Right? And then Abin Sur, who's now melting and kind of like, going jet black, grabs the hand of Hal and says that, Judgment Hal Jordan, the Black Hand, the Black Hand. So it feels like the Black Hand is passed on to Hal because Abin Sur has died. It's almost like Abin Sur had the Black Hand and the green light within him, and it feels like in the last issue when he said to Joe that, oh, those people who disappeared aren't dead, they are inside Oa, and the end of this issue kind of also maybe hints at this as well, is that Oa is more like a state of being, or I don't want to call it like a pocket reality, but it's more like an inner thing, right?
Yeah, it's almost like the idea of nirvana, which is like all encompassing. It's a state of, like you said, a state of being, and they get that they physically, I guess, get pulled into it. I don't know, but this book is wild.
Yeah. You said his hand kind of like melts and then reforms into the Black Hand, and as Abin Sur's literally melting away, he's just like sort of finishing what he's saying. He says, "Judgment is no longer in progress, and Abin Sur cannot be appointed." That's a very interesting sentence because that implies Abin Sur is not just a person's name. That implies that it's a
title.
A title, yeah, like a position, whatever. So yeah, so how far out is the world that's coming? Be with fear, Hal Jordan, fear the Black Hand, fear. So it's almost like be with fear isn't like, oh, I'm trying to intimidate you. It's like, no, be with fear because this threat is coming and you should be terrified of it. So.
And then he also warns to fear the Black Star.
Yes.
Which that's a whole other, like, if that's a piece of the Black, if the Black Hand's a piece of the Black Star, oh boy.
Yes,
like, yikes.
This is going to be such a fascinating book once we're like a couple of arcs in to go back to the start and read from the scratch, just to sort of like feel it all click into place a little bit. Yeah. Basically Hector Hammond has bought this giant Green Lantern, like we'll call it a ship, but I don't even know if that's the right term. And he's pissed that they can't get inside it. So that's kind of what's going on there. Cut back to Joe and Hal having their fight, and Hal's sort of like formed like a sort of black monster with red eyes around them out of the Black Hand energy, and is fighting Joe. And Joe's got green powers, and she's fighting back, and it's a whole thing. I think the big thing you get here though is the way that the Black Hand entity, if you want to call it that, it does have a voice. It is talking to Hal in the same way that it was kind of talking about Todd earlier, but it's basically saying, "Hey, you get the Hal speaking in the black bubbles, but you do get to it kind of switches from him speaking, in white bubbles to black bubbles, and it even goes to kind of similar to the opening page and what we've been seeing in this motif, where it's just black with the white circle, except this time it's like all red with a black circle." And I don't know if that's just implying anger. Obviously, it's very similar to the eyes that he's got on this like body that he's formed, but it's basically saying, hey, the Black Hand is stronger. It's getting control. It's killing people, and it's because of her. It's almost like it's like manipulating him. It's talking him into doing this fight and like driving him forward. And Hal yells out with the black speech bubble, "Because of you." It's like he is being influenced by this. But it's interesting though, because like it starts using some of the language that Abin Sur used, right? Because it's the next page is yelling at her, and it says, "You brought the Green Lantern down. You destroyed the Evergreen. You stole the power of the Abin Sur." And it says, "You are anomaly, Sojourner Mullen." And I'm like, yeah, Hal wouldn't say that. Hal wouldn't like know to phrase it that way. Oh. This is clearly the Black Hand's knowledge is like bleeding into what he's saying. But because she even says, "Hal, who's talking?" Like she's realizing that it's not him that's really talking right now. Yeah, but anyway,
and he goes, and he mentions that it was you in the ring. So it's really getting in on that point that she's an anomaly, and it's not necessarily like it's like the ring isn't really a piece of the Green Lantern lore here. It's part of Joe's lore. Right?
Well, yeah, because if I remember correctly, she put her hand inside the, inside Abin Sur with the gold ring, and that's what caused the tragedy of last issue. Yep. What's interesting though is when Hal/Black Hand yells, "Take off the ring," which is interesting, right? Because that's kind of weird, right? That she has the Green Lantern power here, but she's wearing a gold ring the entire time. That's kind of interesting, given how much it affected everything before. But he yells, "Take off the ring," and this causes a flashback to the end of her marriage, where her ex-husband is demanding that she take off the ring, give it back, because he bought it, and it was an oath. In fact, interestingly, he even says, "You swore an oath in brightest day and blackest night, remember?" So, in this universe, that comes from Joe's wedding vows, apparently. Like, that's where that phrase comes from, which is a very interesting... So, not only is her wedding ring the ring, as far as Green Lantern is concerned, but even the vows that she had at her wedding are at least part. I'm sure it didn't do the whole thing. I'm sure she didn't say, "Beware my power, Green Lantern's light."
My sight.
yeah, that'd be weird to say at a wedding vow. But I thought it's an interesting touch how remixed this one is compared to the other ones. Like this one feels so conceptually different to what Green Lantern normally is, but in a really interesting. I'm enjoying the discovery of what everything is. So she powers up and like punches the crab, and we get like he starts chasing her with a big giant black hand with an eye in the palm, and that's all going on. Hector and that's back at the big Green Lantern ship, and they see like these streaks of light and darkness like in the sky flying, and Hector realizes, oh, they're going to open this thing. Like these are the keys to getting inside here. So. And there's some good stuff here actually with the art where like the Black Hand kind of like grabs Joe and is kind of like got her foot and is sort of gradually consuming her, but then there's like a great panel of her like sort of pulling away and kind of almost whipping the black tendril that's reached out to her back towards Hal. So there's some really nice big cosmic stuff, but as this is happening, the Green Lantern ship is like going vertical. It's like rising up and starts to float in the sky because they're getting close and is reacting to her energy, I assume. And we get this big 2-page spread where she's basically dragging the Black Hand because she's like, basically turned it into a green beam, and she's made a construct of big angel wings around her, and it's a great big 2-page layout where she's flying and dragging him like a tether, and flies him into the middle of the Green Lantern ship. I mean, as in like the hole in the symbol, if you will. She flies into the middle of that, and we end the issue. There's a voice in the darkness, right? And maybe there's a suggestion that this voice was the voice earlier as well, which would be weird, but the final page is Hal, who's kind of in black and white floating. Joe is green and floating, and inside the white ring in the darkness, it looks like John Stewart in a gold, like, he's got a gold sort of ring on his chest, and then he's all sort of glowing gold.
He's definitely yellow, right? If we're using just the traditional color schemes of the Green Lantern.
Oh, sure, right? But in this book, it's always been gold, so that's why I'm,
But still, I don't, he's definitely, projecting the whole yellow, because he even says, be without fear, which is the first time that we get the, instead of be with fear, now we have
that's the big dramatic final line, is that it's like for the first time in the book, it's been be with fear the entire time, consistently, and then he says be without fear, which is the first time it sounds like someone's saying something vaguely Green Lantern.
But he's wearing the color that's anti Green Lantern, right? The one color that seems to be the weakness. It's the gold yellow. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I wouldn't correlate that directly to like Yellow Lantern Corps, though, because again, but
I feel there's a flip of there's enough of a flip though that I do feel like that's a piece of it, right? As I feel the fact that we've saw some of the red mixing with Hal with the black, and then we have the whole Be with Fear section, and then everything with her being this green anomaly, right? Not necessarily saying this is Sinestro Corps or whatever, just that the yellow is that fear kind of given form, right? And it's weird that he's in the Zen-like stance, right? And here telling them to be without fear. So there's just a whole lot going on, a lot to bite off of.
Yeah, I'm not ready to connect this to any kind of Yellow Lantern Sinestro Corps thing, because one, we're dealing with gold. Admittedly, though, the weakness originally in comics was explained as being connected to the yellow power battery and like parallax and all that. So I suppose they could say that in this universe it's going to be gold instead of yellow, just in general across the board, which I guess would make sense. But I'm not ready to jump to that, but I do think it's interesting. They're all donning a different color of some kind, and it kind of almost feels like the entire spectrum of light is inside this. And is this Oa? Because that's where he said that all the people went, so it kind of feels like maybe John's the gatekeeper to Oa right now for whatever reason.
He was judged, right? And he was picked up.
I mean, they were all judged. Everyone that went away was judged.
Right. Yeah, but we specifically, what I mean is, we got that in the text that it said, John Stewart, you have been judged, and that's when he disappears.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but everyone who disappeared was judged. He said, that was implied to be said about everyone. So I don't think that inherently makes this is why he's special. If he's special and he's been picked for a special position in here because of who he is, I think it's because of who he is rather than just because he was judged. Because I think everyone technically was judged. Because Abin Sur was constantly saying judgment's in progress for you and you and you and so yeah, honestly, this is very difficult to like guess where this is going, and I mean that in a good way. It's like we're unfolding in a whole new mythology with it, which is kind of taking things from Green Lantern, but definitely doing its own things with it. Like
it's definitely Al Ewing's version of Green Lantern stuff.
Yeah, and this is so different. At least, it's possible that eventually it'll become more recognizable. I mean, maybe whatever like the end of this story ultimately is going to kind of form a more traditional Lantern Corps of some kind because of the way all of this ends when they defeat the Black Star or whatever. But it does feel like it's building its own weird like mystery mythology that we're kind of unraveling as we go, and it's been fun to explore, and it's interesting, like who they've chosen to be in certain roles, and I think the idea that the rings itself aren't important, but the idea of the circle is important because we keep coming back to this image of the circle and the void, whether it's the black and the white or it's the red and the black or whatever.
Right.
But we keep coming back to that. I mean, so clearly the idea of the circle, which is also the symbol that's on John Stewart, he's not got a lantern symbol. He just has a gold circle.
Right. And then if you look at the Green Lantern symbol, right, it's the two lines over that same kind of circle.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like it's but yeah, the whole thing, it's still a ring. Well, it's just not like a ring that you wear.
Well, to finish that sentence you just started, it's those two lines over the circle, which is almost like it's containing it, like it's keeping control of the circle. And I wonder if that's where we're going with this, is that the whole idea of Abin Sur and what he was doing or what his purpose was, is that he's keeping control of the spectrum of light which exists in this circle, and that circle maybe is Oa. Again, I'm just pulling that out. Like that could be all completely wrong. No, but just based on that one thing you just said, that's what came to mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, oh man, crazy stuff.
Yeah,
and then that whole action sequence with the chase, and you have Hector Hammond, and who we assume is Carol. He's not called her that yet, right? But she's wearing violet, and whatever. They're watching it from the ground with the binoculars. And he just comes off like a smarmy tech billionaire type dude in the very little time that we spent with him. So I think that's some very effective art and writing done by the team. Just I instantly don't like him, and it's not just because he's Hector Hammond. It's the way that he fires the guy for even suggesting that Todd doesn't talk, and then just the way that he snatches the binoculars from the guy to watch what Joe and Hal are up to up in the sky. So, some very effective storytelling there. Yeah.
Art-wise, obviously it's still Lindsay on the art, and I think, obviously the art really shines when we get to those bigger moments, because obviously, we do a little bit of the flashbacks, we do the Hector Hammond stuff, but once the chase starts and they're going through the sky, and it's also, intercutting with the panels of the lantern raising vertical, it just starts to feel really big and epic. It feels like, oh, big stuff's happening here, and you kind of, that 2-page layout especially feels like a big, it's the second last page actually, but it feels like a big build up. It's like the most, it's like the biggest display of power we've seen yet. They didn't come out the gate with like giant Green Lantern constructs or anything like that. In fact, hell, even Joe's like wings that she's made herself here is kind of the most extravagant. Like, I mean, how many constructs have we really seen so far, other than a simple blast or maybe a hand at one point? So no, it feels like it's doing a good job of not just unraveling the mystery, but kind of feeling bigger and more epic as it goes as well. Like we're uncovering something important. So I think Al Ewing's doing a good job here, and then I think the art is, from issue 1 I've said the faces aren't always to my taste, but like the sequential art and the way it tells the story and flows is pretty great. So yeah,
and just design on the Black Hand has like this kind of manga quality to it, but it also feels techno, right? Like there's just this weird mishmash of styles going on, which I think we've said from the beginning with Lindsay. So I couldn't think of a better book for them to be drawing on.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving Absolute Green Lantern?
I'm going to give it a straight 8.
I think I'm going to flip from Absolute Superman, and I'll go 8.5. So I really like Absolute Green Lantern. Absolute Green Lantern, issue 6, Al Ewing writing with JAHNOY Lindsay on the art. So, finally, some answers are starting to take shape here.
Yeah.
We've got some ideas. And although we don't start with that, we start with a cold open, where we just go to Cameron Chase in this universe, who's at her office, and she's working in the FBI, maybe, or something similar to that at the very least. And
I mean, I would say it's probably DEO, but of this
DEO,
universe at the very least.
And it's basically just like her going in, being told that she's going on administrative leave for a while, because there's it's just like the vaguest of hints, but it's like, hey, you cannot do the Green Veil case, you can't be a part of that. And it's like, wait, why can't she be a part of that? And I think by the time they reveal it at the end, I did kind of guess what the connection was going to be, just because there was kind of another couple little things, and I went, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if they ever like told us enough about who Joe's like ex was, where I'm like, okay, I think I know where this is going now. But it's very on its own. It's very cold, like I say, cold open, where there's not much context for it until they start talking about like this case that's happening. And then we get the first page with the 4 colors, with the black, the red, the green, and the gold.
Yes, each of them with writing over top of it that officially gives them like their names of the different levels as well.
Which I think is very interesting here is that, so the black is Quard, right? Mm-hmm. Which is the antimatter universe in main Green Lantern lore, right? That goes all the way back to the Silver Age Green Lantern stuff, right? That was like the villains came from the antimatter world of Quard. Red being Rao is interesting because that's a Superman word. That's, the god of Rao. So
which is a red sun, like it makes sense.
Yeah. Green is Sur, obviously Abin Sur, right? We have some connections there. And then gold is R, which is AUR.
Yes. I couldn't immediately think of anything that relates, except that, the chemical symbol for gold is AU. So it may just be pulling that and saying like, yeah, it's nothing in lore, but just kind of a real life equivalent.
Yeah, nice little touch. Is the order they're in is the same order the characters are in the next page, on the right hand side.
Across like the next 4 pages, like they continue on this panel until they need to mix it up for storytelling purposes. Yeah,
so they do a whole thing where all of this place they're in is Oa. Oa is this dimension. I don't know if that's the right word, but like this
state of mind.
State of mind, yes. And basically, John Stewart and Guy as well kind of understands this because they've both been in here. They understand, what this place is and like what these things are, and like so the black is chaos, right?
Mm-hmm. The lowest level. Yeah.
The lowest level, right? Yeah, there's levels to this. Gold is understanding. Green is anomaly.
No, that's what
she's
what that one term is.
She's an anomaly.
She's the anomaly, but green is like positive action. Green is like seeing it's Guy Gardner's the one who says it. Correct action.
Yeah. And red is incorrect action, right?
It's restraint from action.
Restraint from action.
Withholding.
Lack of action. Okay. And black is chaotic action, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, super funny. Yeah, or super interesting, I should say. So, and it's like this kind of fits what they all were doing in the story before they got zapped with whatever powers they had, right? Because Hal was kind of too scared to do something for a large part. Or not scared to do something. He was like the one who was getting the gun. He was the one that was doing all this crazy stuff. So he was the chaotic one, right? And then obviously John figured stuff out. He had knowledge. He was enlightened. So that has led him to being the gold in this group. And then Jo is the anomaly because she did something that basically they couldn't have predicted and didn't make any sense. So it puts this different spin on like things.
And the term they use for anomaly is Tomar.
Yes. Tomar Ray.
Yes.
Very good. So no, very interesting. And they're in this same order, so we get all these like sequences of black, red, green, gold going down the page. Until we get to I mean, even the one which is just John 4 times still goes down the colors, but it goes down in reverse order on his page intentionally. So
he specifically is saying like the way that the Corps sees it, the way that like the Green Lantern Corps sees it is in that order. Black is the lowest, then red, then green, then gold. But not everyone agrees. Some think it's the opposite. Some thinks that black is the highest option, such as the Black Star world, and that's where we get the reveal of this big circle thing that's been apparently in Hal's mind this whole time.
Yeah, we've been seeing it throughout the entire arc up until this point. We keep going to this thing and there's like a voice. It reminds me of the evil entity in The Fifth Element, where they would do this thing where this planet would be coming through space and you just hear the voice being like, "We're evil, we are coming," blah blah blah.
Not wrong.
So so he explains this to the Black Stars, and there's this planet, and they keep saying how far out is the world that's coming. They say that a bunch of times throughout the issue, and then the reveal here is that this world that's coming, the Black Star world, is Mogo. Mogo is not the Green Lantern world in this Absolute universe. It's the Black Star evil world that's coming, and they have to stop it or do something to deal with it. I mean,
it's they gotta fight it somehow. God only knows what. But I love how they're going through all this. They're saying, and obviously John has understanding, Guy's just kind of being a meditative over in the corner, and Joe's the only one who's just like, all right, that's enough backstory, screw this, I'm done listening to all this. And she decides, as Green Lanterns apparently do in this universe, to take action.
Yeah, and Joe just decides, hey, Hal, I'm going to fix your hand. I don't have to follow their rules, because I even know what the rules are. Just give me your hand. And yeah, she's like, I'm going to help you, right? I believe I can do this. And, she grabs out his hand, and she just sort of demands, let go of my friend, uses sheer willpower to sort of blast it away from him. And seemingly it works. And we go outside, and Hector Hammond's there, he's firing people and doing whatever. And all of a sudden, this causes like a rupture where black goo / rain just starts pouring out of the big Green Lantern ship. All over everyone, and Joe flies off like carrying Hal. She doesn't want to be in there anymore. And notably though, the big thing here is that the ship disappears. Like, it just teleports away, and all that's left is this big puddle of black goo. And is this like a formation of what the black hand entity was? Is it just manifested into a bunch of liquid? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I really like, there's right before the black goo comes out, like, it's expelling a bit of green light, and you can see it transitions from green to red and then to black. And I really like that visual thing of like, it is a spectrum. It is moving down the layers to get down to black. And whatever this is there, that's Hector Hammond's like, okay, whatever just flew off, we know it's going to Coast City. We have no idea where it is. The ship disappeared as well. The only thing I'm left with is this puddle of black goop. And he's just selling to himself like, it's still a win. I can still do some analysis on whatever this black goop is.
Yeah, and then when he brings up Veronica Cale, he's like, oh, tell them that we solved this ship thing. It's gone now. Say you're welcome. Like, right? So basically, the ship went to the moon. We find that out at the next page. We got to a nice, very beautiful looking couple of panels of the moon, and the ship appears there, and John is just like meditating above it. And he says, closer every day, come back soon, Joe. So it's almost like he knows Joe's going to come back, and she just has to go on this like journey of discovery to learn why she needs to fight the fight that she's supposed to fight.
Yeah.
So
she needs to come to the level of understanding that John needs her to be at, of like, this is your mission, this is what you have to do for the good of all mankind.
And then we get another character appearing. We get Baz, who also works at the DAO with Chase. She's on the phone to him. She makes a dig about his privacy, and that is, I guess, the explanation we get for why he's wearing his mask, even though he's otherwise wearing like a suit and he's driving his car. But this appears to be Simon Baz, and they do mention her wife a little bit and how, she's supposed to be on this paid leave. It's not like she got suspended. But she makes a dig about, oh, there's someone at the door. Oh, like I feel like my ex-wife keeps ruining my life. Somehow Joe keeps doing it, and then of course like it's perfectly built, because it builds up to the end of that page, and that knock at the door is going to be Joe. And yes, that's the final full page, is Joe is at the door, Hal hanging off her shoulder, and her being like, hey, didn't know where else to go, I need your help. So yeah, Yeah, I like this a lot, actually. I love that we got the cold open with Chase at the start to set up her up in this world, make her feel like she's got her own thing going on, so that when Joe invades it later on, it feels like a thing. See, if we didn't do that and it was just like her showing up here, and there was a panel saying, "Oh, this is Cameron Chase," it would have been such a just, oh, I guess we've got her now.
Yeah. I love the way they immediately give her personality as well, where she's waiting for her boss to call her in, and then as she sits down, she immediately just starts chewing out her boss, has a completely foul mouth, and also starts smoking. And her boss is like, "You absolutely can't smoke in here." And she just shoots him the dirtiest look and continues to light it up anyway. And it's just everything you need to know about her character is written out in these like 3 pages, so that by the time we get to the end, we can... A, we're introducing Simon, so we can give him a little bit of time now as well. But B, we can then focus on the reveal of, turns out the ex was Joe.
Yeah, I like it because it, as much as it is just a cold open and a couple of pages before the reveal, it's enough that you're excited that these two worlds are colliding, even though you just introduced one of them on this issue. But because we took the time to do that, this ending feels more exciting because it's like, oh, we already know Cameron just enough that I'm excited to see how these two play off of each other. And that's kind of cool. So...
Yeah. I think my only criticism from like a character perspective is I'm sure he's going to keep popping up, but I would have liked the fact that we got the introduction to Hector Hammond, I think last issue, spend just a little bit more time. I don't feel like I know him at all yet. And we're kind of not there at that point, but if he's going to be sticking around, then I can wait for it. I just want
I'm sure we'll get more for sure. So yeah, I just there's a little hint as well when she's talking to Baz that I picked up on, because I thought maybe they were about to reveal it was Jess, because she says, you've got like a new partner. Who you working with? Tell me they didn't put you with, insert random name, Pemberton. And I thought, I wonder if his partner's actually Jess, but they just didn't get to like saying it here, and they'll reveal her later, because we've not had Jess yet. Because
that's true.
We've had like most characters. I mean, we've had Kyle, I guess. I don't think.
That's true. I don't know. See, it's weird to me because Simon obviously is core. He is part of the Green Lantern. So the fact that they're introducing him here in the DEO means essentially all bets are off. They can introduce any character they want.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Just say like, it doesn't even have to be someone who's, because I mean, Pemberton, the name Pemberton is the original Star Spangled Kid, Sylvester Pemberton from the JSA. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's a reference to that.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that could be like a nod to that. But I feel like we've introduced so many of the Human Lanterns. I said bizarrely my 2 favorites, but like we started with Jo, who's like a relatively modern character. She's only a couple of years old in terms of like creation. So we're just left with Kyle and Jess, and I guess Kelly, if we're counting Kelly, Teen Lantern. Maybe she'll show up as well at some point. But
I'm gonna make the dumbest prediction of all time.
Okay.
So they've established, this is all up in the Northwest. This is like Washington, Oregon sort of area up there. Up there, there's, Alaskan crab fishing and stuff like that. There's going to be a crab shack. And that's where they're going to introduce Kyle.
We'll see. I think the fact that they've introduced Baz here, just sort of nonchalantly here, makes me think we will see the others at some point. Probably not even that long or far away.
I mean, I'd agree, but I also feel like they're kind of moving Guy and John off the table for right now to kind of focus on Joe and maybe a little bit of Hal. So, I mean, yes, maybe we'll get them in rotation, but I do think we might actually just go through the rest of the arc and establish Cameron, establish Simon, how the DEO, or again, we're assuming DEO. I don't think they ever officially say the name.
Yeah, don't mistake me saying that I suspect they're going to be main characters. Like, I think Joe is undeniably the main character of Absolute Green Lantern, and maybe that'll change in an arc too, where they do rotate the focus a little bit. But I'm not expecting any of these characters to show up and suddenly be the focus. Like, I think if anything, it'll just be as like with Baz here. It'll be like a one scene kind of thing. Maybe he'll pop up later. Maybe he won't. I don't know. We'll find out.
It'll be what Dick Grayson was over in Absolute Batman, just the EMT for one panel.
Sure. But again, I feel like, you know, they probably seed that because they know, oh, in 3 arcs time, like, we're getting to him, but we're not doing it yet. Yeah. We're just teasing it now. So no. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, this book, like, as far as the art goes, I think I like the layouts. I like the sense of scale that the art has for all the big things. I love things like the panels of the moon, all the rest of it. And credit where credit's due, I do think it's very good with the expressions of getting the things across. I mean, a lot of that Agent Chase stuff at the start, you said the personality, not all of it, but a lot of it is in the art. I still don't necessarily love the style of the art as far as faces goes, but I've said that since issue 1, but in almost every other way, it's objectively very, very good and very pleasing and consistent. So it's hard to fault, honestly, outside of a little bit of a taste thing as far as the faces goes. Yeah,
I was going to say the sequence where Joe is blasting the cord energy off of Hal is very anime. It's absolutely the, like, oh, I'm going to win by the power of friendship sort of thing. And, like, that's fine, but it is a taste thing for sure.
Yeah. So outside of that, I really don't have much to say negatively about the art. It is very, very consistent. Love how they introduced Chase. Like this mythology they're building up. I've been enjoying the teases. Now we kind of have this more solidly locked down.
Oh yeah, no, that's I feel like part of the draw of Modern Lanterns is this sort of structure that it has, this idea of, like, there are so many categories to file stuff into, and I appreciate that the Absolute Universe isn't really wasting time just defining that, saying, like, here's the levels, here's the colors, here's how it's all going to work.
But it's very different, though. It's not the color spectrum and all these different colors. No, it's like, it's all part of the a Green Lantern thing, and they're kind of connected, but one's kind of villainous, and, like, the bad guys see it as the other way around, but they're all part of the, well, I guess the spectrum, but not the same type of spectrum that the main Lanterns have.
It's not based off of emotional anymore. It's based off of action. It's based off of positive and negative action in that way.
Yeah, very interesting. Doesn't make me wonder, though, if we ever do get other colors, and how we'd even get to them, given that these 4 seem to be the core pillars of what the whole Owen thing's built around. But
yeah, possible.
That's for another day. No, very, very good stuff. What are you giving Absolute Green Lantern?
I like I said, I really like the structure aspect of it. I like the fact of coming into this one, it gives you just, here's what the levels are, here's what they're going to do, and it's not done in a way that feels overly expository, because this is Oa, this is like this separate realm, so it makes sense that you can just take a second to explain things here. Add on top of that the promise of whatever Cameron, Chase, and Simon are going to do. I think this one's definitely a solid 8 for me.
Yeah, it's expanding its character pool, and it's doing it in a way that I'm excited about those new characters coming into it. I think Absolute Green Lantern is kind of fascinating to me because it's probably the one that feels, well, I guess Martian Manhunter is actually, this is also true for that, but I think Absolute Green Lantern is the one where it feels like the mythology at its core is so different, and he's got a completely different thing set up for it that's just so fascinating to explore. And I think now that we're getting to more solid kind of concrete, like, explanations of it, we don't understand everything yet, but we definitely have a lot of understanding versus what we had before. It's just so exciting. So I gotta go 8.5 on this. Very, very good stuff.